Chapter 1990. Today, even the heavens seem to be afraid of the upcoming war between the two races that would affect the entire Spalier world. Layers of dark clouds covered the entire sky, and not even half a ray of sunlight could penetrate the clouds and shine on the earth. Wu Yan's guess was correct. The population of the magical beast clan was vast. Even if the Beast King had temporarily brought the magical beast clan into hiding due to the rebellion of the pseudo-god power in his body, where could such a large population of magical beasts hide? There was nowhere to go except the behemoth forest. Moreover, it was the core area of the behemoth forest. Roar! 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 In the core area of the behemoth forest, where the Beast King had just advanced to the demigod rank and transformed into a human, numerous magical beasts of at least the 9th grade were stationed there. They stared at the surroundings with their ferocious eyes, but at the same time, they were peeking at the center of the clearing from the corner of their eyes. One could faintly see traces of fear in their eyes. This was because a figure was sitting cross-legged at the center of this empty space. His body was surging with dense black mist that was rolling like a volcanic eruption, causing the center of this empty space to be even darker and stranger than the dark clouds in the sky. Of course, although it was strange, it wasn't enough to make the magical beasts of the 9th grade feel fear. The real reason why the magical beasts of the 9th grade didn't even dare to get close. It was because the black fog contained the current emotions in the heart of its owner, and it was completely exposed. Cold, ruthless, ferocious, furious, resentful. All kinds of extremely negative emotions mixed together with the false god's power, which was already extremely sinister to begin with, causing the false god's power to become extremely active. The black mist churned continuously, but it made the Class 9 magical beasts in the surroundings tremble with fear. Although their intelligence wasn't high, their instincts were outstanding. They knew that at this moment, if the owner of the incomparably excited black fog wanted to vent his negative emotions on anyone, they would be the first to bear the brunt of it. Therefore, for these magical beasts of the 9th grade, now, they had to stay close to protect the king of their race, but they also wanted to run far away because of fear. Under the contradiction between the two, every action was like walking on thin ice. He was extremely frightened. Fortunately, the master of the black fog didn't feel any negative emotions towards these powerhouses of the 9th step. It was someone else. Who? At a certain moment, the rolling black fog suddenly paused and began to spiral. They shrunk back into their master's body, causing the strange and sinister atmosphere in the world to disappear without a trace. Instead, a wave of pressure appeared out of nowhere. The Beast King, who was sitting in the middle of the empty space, suddenly opened his eyes. Extremely dense black light flashed through his eyes, bringing with it a sinister aura that caused the surrounding atmosphere to tremble slightly. 3 days. Raising his hand, the Beast King clenched his fist slightly, feeling the pseudo-god's power that had returned to calmness in his body. The corner of the Beast King's mouth lifted into a cruel arc. I've already endured for 3 days. Yakumo. Fiercely clenching his fist, traces of black gas surged on it. The Beast King's eyes bloomed with unprecedented anger, coldness, and killing intent. You've ruined my plans time and time again, and you've schemed against me time and time again. This time, I'd like to see if you can still come up with a brilliant plan to make me suffer losses. After saying that, the Beast King stood up and looked at the magical beasts of the 9th grade who were roaring in low voices, lying on the ground like puppies, and worshipping him. A thoughtful look appeared in his eyes. Then he made a decision and waved his hand. A circle of pitch-black fluctuations reverberated. Roar. Ao. Woo. Seeing the pitch-black ripples fly towards them, the Class 9 magical beasts thought that the Beast King was really going to vent his anger on them. They all growled and begged for mercy, but in the next second, they were still hit by the pitch-black ripples, which swept past the huge bodies of the magical beasts. However, the magical beasts of the 9th grade discovered that the pitch-black fluctuations did not cause any harm to them. Instead, it seemed like they were choosing something. Not long after, 7 of the magical beasts of the 9th grade involuntarily floated up, covered by the pitch-black fluctuations, and swept them in front of the Beast King. If one looked closely, they would discover that the 7 magical beasts of the 9th grade belonged to the highest level among the magical beasts of the 9th grade. Seeing that these were the most powerful beings in the magical beast clan, the beast monarch didn't give them a chance to speak. Streaks of strange black light suddenly rose from its body, wriggling a few times like insects before all of them surged down and drilled into the bodies of the 7 class magical beasts. Roar! Ao! Woo! In the next moment, the 7 magical beasts of the 9th grade roared in extreme pain. With a rumble, their huge bodies heavily smashed into the ground. Their tough bodies began to undulate, struggle, and twist, as if something was violently attacking their bodies. After who knew how long, the auras of the 7 magical beasts of the 9th grade began to become strange and cold. Strands of black mist appeared on their bodies, and their bodies constantly twisted. In the end, they turned into identical monsters. This was the side effect of receiving the power of a false god. However, it didn't take long for the bodies of these monsters to suddenly explode. With a bang, they exploded into a bloody mist that filled the sky. A dense black gas surged out from the blood mist in the sky. It was like a meteorite falling from the sky, landing heavily on the ground. When the black gas dissipated, 7 figures emerged from it and imprinted themselves into the Beast King's eyes. The 7 figures that appeared in the black mist all half knelt down and lowered their heads, bowing to the Beast King respectfully. "Thank you for granting our wish, Beast God. You've helped us become Beast Kings. Give me everything you have." The Beast King said coldly, "You only have one mission, and that's to lead us beasts and kill all humans." Hearing that, the eyes of the new pseudo-Beast Kings flickered with a bloody and cruel light. Yes, not only was the Beast King not satisfied with the answer at all, but his eyes even vaguely flickered with displeasure. It couldn't be helped. Although the 7 pseudo-Beast Kings had also taken human form, they were much weaker than Huang Xiong, Xieming, and Heishu from before. Relying on the power of a false god to ascend was an undesirable shortcut. Huang Xiong, Xieming, and Heishu were still at the peak of Class 9 before they obtained the power of a false god. They only needed a strand of the power of a false god to ascend. Even if they weren't regular demigods, it wouldn't be difficult for them to keep a demigod busy for a while. However, because the 7 pseudo-beast kings weren't at the peak of Class 9, not only did they have to be promoted to the peak of Class 9 before they could ascend to the demigod rank, but it also consumed a lot of the power of a false god. Blindly pulling up seedlings to help them grow made them weaker than Huang Xiong, Xieming, and Heishu. However, the 7 of them had no choice but to be promoted. After all, despite his arrogance, the Beast King had already been scared by Violet's endless schemes. This time, the Beast King didn't want to fall for Violet's tricks again. Just in case, he had to promote a few powerful subordinates. If he fell for Violet's schemes again, there would be people who could help him. If possible, the Beast King hoped to use the power of a false god to create more pseudo-demigod Beast Kings. However, the power of a false god was also the source of his power. Using this much was already his limit. If he used any more, his power would begin to decline. The Beast King wasn't so generous as to sacrifice his power to help others. Raising his head and looking at the dark clouds in the sky, the Beast King's eyes shone with coldness. "Yakumo Violet. I'm coming. Yakumo Violet. I'm coming." The voice that seemed to come from the sky and hell turned into an echo. It possessed a terrifying might that could make one's soul tremble. It shook the entire behemoth forest. Whoosh! In the capital of alternate generations, all the powerhouses from the top 12 forces of the Spalier world were in an uproar. Their faces were filled with fear. On the top floor of the heart of alternate generations, Violet smiled and turned to look at her backbone sitting on the sofa. Is this considered a provocation? Or is it just a spur of the moment stupidly notifying us in advance that we have to take precautions? Who knows? Wu Yan slowly opened his eyes and smiled. But I'm looking forward to seeing his expression when he sees me. Chapter 1991. Beast King. On the other side, Garen, Mura, Linya, Cynthia, and Magnubi led the higher-ups of the Spalier world to the voice that sounded like it came from the sky in hell. They ignored the 12 top forces in the capital of alternate generations who were in an uproar. Prepare for battle. While the Spalier world's powerhouses were appalled by the sudden voice, the three emperors, Kate, Gutta, and Weah, let out a bellow that calmed the restless Spalier world's powerhouses. Charge! In an instant, a dense crowd of Spalier world's powerhouses swarmed out of the capital of alternate generations and formed a sea of people. Some of them leaped onto the city walls and prepared to defend the city, while the others rushed out of the capital of alternate generations and prepared to fight the magical beast army head-on. Swish! In the sky, the Misaka sisters turned into streams of light with the help of the thrusters and flew in all directions of the capital of alternate generations. They covered the entire sky above the capital of alternate generations and were ready to face the most troublesome flying magical beasts. How terrifying was the number of Misaka sisters, and almost 70% of the Spalier world's powerhouses that were above the advanced stages. It was a pity that almost 70% of the powerhouses above the intermediate and advanced stages. No matter how many humans there were in the Spalier world, they were no match for the magical beasts that had strong reproductive abilities and a longer lifespan than ordinary humans. Roar! 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 Under the countless gazes of the people in the capital of alternate generations, a series of loud, chaotic roars sounded in the behemoth forest ahead. Shortly after, the dark clouds in the distance were gradually dispersed, and the sound of breaking wind was heard continuously. Shadows that blotted out the sky and covered the earth swept out from above the clouds like a tide. Accompanied by loud roars, they came from all directions and surrounded the capital of otherworldly beings. In the interior of the behemoth forest, the giant trees seemed to have been trampled by something. One after another, they collapsed. As the familiar, annoying roar sounded and the ground shook repeatedly, the behemoth forest's army of magical beasts spread across the land. The densely packed magical beast army also charged over from all directions, advancing with all their might towards the capital of alternate generations. The magical beasts are finally here. Gazing at the two camps that were divided into land and air, the magical beast army swarmed over from all directions like a swarm of locusts. Many people's faces turned pale. Although all the powerhouses had already expected this scene, and guessed what kind of scene it would be and were mentally prepared, it was inevitable that they would be shaken when they saw the army that outnumbered them by many times. Of course, if the sight of the magical beasts charging toward them made the powerhouses of the Spalier world waver, in the next moment, when 7 figures that looked like black dots in the distant horizon led the flying magical beasts toward the capital of alternate generations from 7 different directions, the powerhouses of the Spalier world screamed in shock. That's a beast king. A demigod beast king. How is that possible? 7 beast kings. Let alone the powerhouses of the Spalier world. Even the demigods and higher-ups of the Spalier world couldn't help but change their expressions when they saw this scene. This is going to be troublesome, Jarlin said in a deep voice. I didn't expect the Beast King to create 7 demigod subordinates. I'm afraid the Beast King is afraid. Mora sneered. He's afraid that Miss Z will use some kind of trick to trick him again, so he created a group of pawns and let them charge forward first to test the waters. Miss Z is really amazing, Cynthia said with admiration. Not only is she powerful, but even the demigod Beast King is afraid of her. Compared to Miss Z, we are far inferior. What do you think? Do you want to go? Magnubi curled his claws slightly, lightning flashed faintly on his body, and his eyes were extremely cold. Thanks to Sir Wu Yan's help, we have all recovered to a state where we can fight. Although we can't fully recover our combat energy and mana in such a short time, it won't take us long to deal with these useless demigods. I think we shouldn't. Linya waved her hand and stopped him. Miss Yukari is a wise woman. She didn't show up even after seeing this situation. She must have predicted this situation and has other plans in mind. Let's follow Sir Wu Yan's instructions and cut the grass. By cutting the grass, she meant to torture the weak. It's undeniable that the Beast Clan's army is too big. Their numbers are an unavoidable problem. Even if the Misaka sisters and the powerhouses of the Spalier world could handle it, it's inevitable that there will be casualties. Setting aside the powerhouses of the Spalier world, Wu Yan couldn't just sit by and watch the Misaka sisters fall into danger. Therefore, he ordered the 5 demigods of the Spalier world who haven't fully recovered to deal with the weak. Come to think of it, with 5 demigod-level powerhouses attacking, the Magical Beast clan would be wiped out sooner or later no matter how many of them there were. That was why Linya said those words. The group of 5 demigods naturally had no objections. They looked at each other and flew out of the capital of a different era, charging towards the Magical Beast army. Seeing this, Carter, Gadawi and the other higher-ups of the Spalier world were excited. They followed closely behind the 5 demigods and rushed out of the capital of alternate generations. At this moment, Wu Yan stood on the rooftop of the heart of alternate generations with a group of girls. Many of the girls gasped when they saw the 7 figures in the sky leading the flying beasts. You were right, Hinajika said to Yukari, who was standing beside her with a sigh. The Beast King really did raise another group of demigod Beast Kings. He sent them to scout ahead. He's already lost twice. If the Beast King dares to challenge us again, he won't be underestimating us. He's just being stupid. Violet shook her head and smiled. Right now, he's only wary of me. He thinks that I'm the only one who can threaten him. He's ignoring everyone else, right? Now that you mention it, I'm looking forward to it too. Shokoho Misaki smiled beautifully. I'm looking forward to seeing the Beast King's expression when he finds out that we're not the only ones who can threaten him. Yen. Mikoto's bangs sparkled as she spoke excitedly. Do you need us to accept the challenge? You. Wu Yen, who was standing in the center of the group of girls, muttered to himself. Then he revealed an enigmatic smile. Judging from their auras, these pseudo-beast kings are weaker than the 3 pseudo-beast kings we encountered in the 3 empires. You girls don't have to go all out against one of them. Wu Yen glanced at the girls. Violet, you take on one of them. Ikaros and Astria can handle 1 demigod beast king. The elves will take on 1 demigod beast king. Chuju Mikoto, Kitsui-chan, and the girls from the Black Ops will take on 1 each. But Kotori frowned. She looked at the sky that was filled with flying demonic beasts. These flying demonic beasts are coming from all directions. The 7 demigod beast kings are leading 1 direction each. There's 1 direction that isn't led by a demigod beast king, but it has the most flying demonic beasts. If we take on 4 demigod beast kings, what about the remaining 3, and the one that isn't led by a demigod beast king? Don't worry. Wu Yen glanced at the flying demonic beasts coming from 8 different directions. His voice floated in the air as he spoke. It's time for you to meet our new companions. New companions? The group of girls was stunned. Only Z's eyes lit up slightly. Wu Yen smiled without saying anything, and he pointed his finger forward. B. A blinding light shone from the empty space in front of them. It's a light the girls are familiar with. Within the dazzling light, 1 figure after another began to appear. Chapter 1992. Charge. Roar. 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 Amidst the furious roars of the human powerhouses and the roars of the magical beasts, the Spalier world powerhouses on the ground, led by the higher-ups of the Spalier world, finally clashed with the magical beast army. Looking down from the sky, the clash between the powerhouses of the Spalier world and the magical beast clan looked like scattered ants rushing into a black tide. However, in terms of numbers, the magical beasts of the magical beast clan were at least thousands or even tens of thousands of times more powerful than the human powerhouses. However, the magical beast clan continued to fall to the side of the battle. The 5 demigod powerhouses, Jarlin, Mura, Linya, Cynthia, and Magnubi, directly found the level 9 magical beasts in the magical beast clan, and waved their hands without hesitation. In less than a minute, each of them killed at least 2 or 3 level 9 magical beasts. On the other hand, Carter, Gada, Wea, and the rest of the level 9 human powerhouses followed the example of the 5 demigod powerhouses and bullied the weak. After charging into the magical beast army, they specifically targeted the level 8 magical beasts. Not long after, a large number of level 8 magical beasts fell, with the demigod powerhouses taking on the level 9 magical beasts, and the level 9 powerhouses also choosing level 8 magical beasts to kill. The pressure on the Spalier world powerhouses was greatly reduced even though they were outnumbered by the magical beast clan. They roared and charged into the magical beast army and started a massacre. Thus, even though the size of the beast's army was thousands or even tens of thousands of times that of Silveria's powerhouses, the beasts were still able to maintain the balance of the war. It couldn't be said that things were going smoothly. While the Spalier world powerhouses charged into the magical beast army, Yukari led 5,000 Misaka sisters towards the magical beast army in the east. Ikaros and Astria led 5,000 Misaka sisters towards the magical beast king in the west. Kotori, Kurumi, Toka Origami Mikoto, Yokoi Yukihiro, and the other elven girls headed towards the magical beast king in the north. Chuju Mikoto, Kinuhata Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku led the remaining 5,000 Misaka sisters towards the magical beast king in the south. Ikaros and Astria were able to enter Pandora mode and reach Pinnacle Tier 9. The magical beast king this time was a half-baked magical beast king. It was only slightly stronger than a normal peak Tier 9. Ikaros and Astria had the Uranus system in second evolution. There was no reason for them to lose. Kotori, Kurumi, Toka, Origami, Mikoto, Yoshino, Yakuya, Yuhan, and the other elven girls had the advantage in numbers, and with the sharpness and sturdiness of their angels and spiritual equipment, they might have a hard time dealing with the previous fake beast king. But it shouldn't be a problem to deal with the half-baked fake beast king. On the other hand, Chuju Mikoto, Kinuhata Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku might have a hard time dealing with the magical beast king. However, they were all espers. After receiving Takitsubu Riku's boost, they should be able to increase their power by a lot. Plus, Chuju had the fantasy killer with her. Under various circumstances, taking down a half-baked magical beast king shouldn't be a problem. As for Yukari, she should be the one with the least suspense. Not to mention her ability to manipulate her realm like a bug, just based on her level alone. Violet was far above her opponent. It might be a bit of an exaggeration to say that she could deal with that half-baked fake beast king with a flip of her hand, but it was definitely just a matter of a few minutes. While the group of girls led 20,000 Misaka sisters to face off against the magical beast kings from the east, south, west, and north, the magical beast king from the southeast was also leading a swarm of flying magical beasts. Its face was filled with blood and excitement as it flew towards the capital of otherworldly beings. Suddenly, its expression froze as its body came to a halt in midair. It wasn't just the leading beast king. Even the flying magical beasts behind it seemed to have come to a sudden stop. They quickly came to a halt, and all kinds of roars seemed to be stuck in their throats, unable to come out. What caused the magical beast king and the flying magical beast king to react this way was a figure floating in midair. Yes, it was just a figure. It was a figure that was much smaller than any of the flying magical beasts that were as dense as locusts. However, when the figure appeared out of thin air and blocked their way, none of the magical beasts, including the magical beast king, dared to move. They stared at the figure that seemed to be the most powerful being in the world, unable to make a sound for a long time. It was a young girl with slightly curly emerald hair and scarlet eyes. She wore a red and dark red checkered vest and a knee-length skirt of the same color. She wore a yellow bow tie and a white long-sleeved shirt underneath the vest. Looking at the tall and slender young lady who seemed like she would be torn to shreds by his magical beast army with just a single charge, the fake beast king's heart rang with a wild alarm, and he couldn't help but let out a low roar. "Who are you?" The young girl widened her scarlet eyes and looked at the magical beast king, as if she had just realized that she was blocking the way of a group of ferocious beasts. Then, she smiled delightedly. "It doesn't matter who I am." She raised her parasol and pointed at the magical beast army that was many times larger than her. There wasn't the slightest bit of fear in her tone. Instead, she revealed an extremely violent fighting spirit and dominance. "The important thing is, are you my opponent?" As she spoke, an extremely terrifying pressure suddenly surged out from the girl's tall and slender body. It instantly enveloped the heavens and the earth, causing the air to be filled with monstrous killing intent. The magical beast king's expression changed drastically. Buzz. Between heaven and earth, surges of vitality from nature transformed into majestic demonic powers that replenished the young girl's body, making her aura even more terrifying. In the next moment, The light from the magic cannon of the strongest existence in the fantasy village rose sharply in this part of the world. It swept through the densely packed army of flying magical beasts, drowning all the magical beasts, including the fake beast king. Delicate fragrance Kazakami. Descend. When the light from the magic cannons of the most powerful being in the fantasy village expanded sharply in the southeast direction, two figures that were much more mysterious than delicate fragrance Kazakami's domineering and arrogant figure appeared in midair in the southwest direction. They also blocked the magical beast king that led the flying magical beast army. They were also two young girls. The young girl on the left wore a nurse's cap on her head. She wore a cheongsam-like dress with various patterns embroidered on the lower half of her body. Her silver hair was tied into a braid with a hairband at the end. She looked to be about 20 years old. The young girl on the right wore a kimono with a pink top and red bottom. She had extremely smooth long black hair, and a delicate face that could cause the downfall of a country. The sleeves of her dress were extremely long. She had a mysterious charm that seemed eternal and fleeting at the same time, making it hard for people to look away. Era. The girl who was wearing a kimono like Yamato Nadeshiko, with long black straight hair that was as smooth as a waterfall, used her long sleeves to cover the corner of her mouth. However, a gleam of schadenfreude flashed in her eyes. It's only been less than a minute since we set off, and there's already a fight over there. He can't wait to charge into the enemy's formation directly, and that soaring battle intent and powerful demonic power. Another young girl who was wearing a Taoist robe and a cheongsam with a nurse's hat on her head said indifferently, "Other than the one in the sunflower field, there shouldn't be a second candidate." That's true. The extremely beautiful girl with long black hair shrugged her shoulders. Her gaze was cast towards the black mass of beasts that was gradually approaching. The leader of the beasts was a sinister figure with a ruthless face. A faint smile hung on her beautiful face. "Then Yonglin, shouldn't we make a move too? Since the princess said so." The young girl nodded casually, but her eyes began to shine with a cold light. "That's great. I haven't exercised my muscles and bones for a long time. Mount Pinglai bright night. Yonglin 8 wills. Descend. R 1152. Chapter 1993. While the 6 pseudo-beast kings in the east, south, west, north, southeast, and southwest all suffered devastating attacks, there were also several figures floating in the northeast where the last pseudo-beast king was located. The owners of these figures were also extremely beautiful young girls. There was a young girl who had beautiful silver shoulder-length hair, with small braids on both sides of her silver hair, and a green ribbon tied at the end of the braids. She was wearing a blue and white maid outfit. There was a young girl with long, straight purple hair, tied into 2 bundles with ribbons in front of her. She wore a fluffy and comfortable outfit like pajamas, with purple and lavender vertical stripes on the inside. The outer layer was a lavender long coat with lotus leaves, and she wore a lavender beret with crescent-shaped ornaments on her head. There was a young girl with the same long, straight red hair, wearing a green cheongsam, and a hat with a 5-pointed star on her head. She was dressed like a warrior. There was a young girl with wine-red pupils and shoulder-length bluish-purple hair. She wore a cherry-colored gothic lowly outfit that leaned toward white, and a beret flower hat on her head. She had black bat-like wings on her back. There was also a girl with a pale yellow ponytail on the left side of her head. She was wearing a red and white gothic lowly outfit, and she also had a beret on her head. On her back, there was a broken wing girl with crystal pendants hanging all over her body. The combination of these 5 young girls floated in the air, as if they were a natural combination. Looking at the flying magical beast army, and the leading beast king that was gradually charging over, each of them made a different reaction. Unknowingly, a few glittering silver throwing knives appeared in the hands of the elegant and heroic girl dressed as a maid. Her blue eyes suddenly turned red. The soft young girl dressed like pajamas flipped her hand and grabbed a magic book. The young girl dressed as a warrior waved her fist a few times, releasing an overwhelming aura. The petite young girl with bat-like wings raised one hand, spitting out a blood-red mist from her palm. As for the young girl with broken wings full of crystal pendants on her back, she slightly raised her head. A bloody light flashed in her cute scarlet eyes, as if she was ruthless. It was bloody. It was cruel. In the petite young girl's body, a bloody aura that was many times more dangerous than the other young girls swept over the world. Without a doubt, the bloody aura frightened even the magical beasts that gnawed on the bones. They were all under the lead of the Beast King. The charging momentum suddenly stopped. Looking at the petite girl blocking the road with a face full of horror, even the fake Beast King's pupil shrank slightly. He felt a dangerous aura from the little girl. Cold sweat immediately flowed down. However, the young girl with broken wings full of crystal pendants on her back seemed to be in disbelief. She innocently opened her mouth and said the cruelest words in the world. "Why did you stop? This way they can't crush you into powder, right?" "Yes. You have to understand them, little sister." The beautiful young girl with long purple hair held the grimoire and said with a face full of wisdom, "Even the beasts that only know how to eat know to run when they encounter danger. They stopped and didn't directly run away. It's already very praiseworthy. If possible, I don't want to wantonly slaughter." The elegant and heroic maid held a throwing knife between her fingers, her red eyes full of indifference. "But since it's Lord Bai's order, there's no other way. China, if you slack off, you'll only have 2 meals left for 3 meals in the future." "What?" The young girl dressed in a cheongsam looked as if she saw the end of the world. Her eyes became unprecedentedly stern and serious. "I won't slack off. Also, Miss Xiaoyi, I'm not China, I'm Hong Meiling. Although I'm not happy that he asked us to deal with a group of beasts that only know how to eat, I'll reluctantly agree since he's my brother." The petite young girl with bat-like wings grinned, revealing a pair of small canine teeth as she giggled. "It's rare to have such an opportunity. Fran, I'll allow you to have fun today. Haha." The little girl with broken wings on her back that was covered with crystal pendants suddenly laughed. Her innocent and cute pretty face actually started to show traces of ferociousness as she laughed. Then, the next sentence of the petite young girl opened the beginning of this cruel and bloody massacre. "Hey you guys, do you want to play with Fran?" Remilia, Fran, Patrice, Xiaoyi, Hong Meiling, the Red Devil's 5-member team descended together. At the same time, the army of flying beasts in the northwest direction that was not led by a pseudo-demigod beast king, and was heading towards the capital of otherworldly beings in an extremely excited state, did not encounter the same terrifying enemies as the other 7 directions, but they were stopped by a group of girls. It was a group of young girls that looked very strange just by looking at their formation. Moreover, these young girls seemed to be divided into 3 groups. First, the group on the left was a group of 3 children who looked like they were only 10 years old and 2 young girls who weren't even 20 years old. Among the 3 children, one of them was wearing a pink and white robe that resembled that of a magical girl. She held a magic wand in her hand and had long, snow-white hair that reached her waist. Another one had short, black hair that reached her shoulders. She was also wearing a blue robe that resembled that of a magical girl. The last one had dark skin and wore a tattered red night robe. She held a pair of black and white daggers in her hand. As for the 2 girls under the age of 20, one of them had black ponytails and was wearing a red top and black bottom woolen sweater and a pleated skirt. The other had wavy blonde hair and was wearing a blue dress with white edges. They were Ilya, Mio, Blackie, Rin Enbin, and Livia. In the middle was a group of young girls riding on dragons. Among them, the one riding a majestic red dragon was a young girl with bright red hair. The one riding a majestic white dragon was a young girl with blonde hair. The one riding a purple-skinned dragon was a petite young girl with short silver hair and sharp elf-like ears. The one riding a dragon with steel-like scales was a young girl as beautiful as a fairy. They were Rebecca, Sylvia, Luca, Charlotte, Guffrin, Lancelot, Gawain, and Sigmund. Occupying the corner on the right was a group of familiar young ladies. For example, the beautiful blonde girl who wore a blue sleeveless dress with a white coat draped over her shoulders like a shawl. She wore a red hairband with white frills on her head, and held a grimoire tied with a red bow. 2 palm-sized little people floated around her. For example, there was a petite girl who wore a small yellow blouse with a green collar with 2 white lines running through it. Her lower body was a skirt with 2 white lines running through it. She had light green short hair, and in front of her hung a tightly shut eye. For example, there was a petite girl with light purple hair. She wore a light blue blouse with many pleated circles, and a pink skirt that reached her knees, revealing only her calves. She wore a red hair band on her head, and there was also an eye hanging in front of her. However, it was open, and she had short light purple hair. Another example was the red and white witch costume and the black and white witch costume. One of them had a big red bow on her head, while the other had a wizard hat on her head. One of them had a lazy look on her face, while the other had an excited look on her face. Naturally, they were Alice, Gumming Ju, Gumming Love, Ling Meng, and Marissa. Looking at the fearless army of flying magical beasts charging towards them, and recalling the various introductions to this world and the current situation in their memories. Other than Ling Meng and Gu Ming's love, the rest of the girls all showed different degrees of solemnity. Although it looks a little scary. Ilya clutched the ruby tightly. But since it's Brother Wu Yan's request, Ruby, we can't be merciful. Brother Wu Yan. May you also clutch the sapphire tightly with a determined expression in her eyes. Xiaohei giggled. However, the magical energy on his body was already rolling restlessly. Squeeze your magical energy until there's only a trace left before going back to Big Brother to replenish it. I don't have many gems left. Rin Enbin was going crazy. Damn it, I'll make him compensate me when we get back. Oh, Livia laughed sarcastically. I still have a lot left in my inventory. Magical beasts? Lebecca smiled sweetly as she rode on Guffrin's back. As the master of the dragon race, I don't want to be defeated by a bunch of random beasts. Lancelot. Sylvia also stroked Lancelot's hair, and said softly, let him see our growth. Definitely. Luca's small face was filled with determination. We can't disappoint Lord Roland. I won't back down just like that. Charlotte gritted her teeth. Sigmund, don't be merciful. Alice and Gumming Ju remained silent. Their magical energy were already boiling. Haha. Gumming Love laughed happily. Ju won't lose either. Ling Meng. Marissa shouted excitedly. Let's go. Seriously. Ling Meng sighed and stood up. Why did something so troublesome happen? Chapter 1994. Above the dark clouds, the Beast King hovered in the air and looked down at the battlefield. His face gradually turned ugly. 10 minutes after the battle began, the first Beast King was annihilated by Yuka Fujimi's magic cannon. More than 100,000 flying demonic beasts also died by Yuka Fujimi's hands. 12 minutes after the start of the battle, the second Pseudo-Beast King was torn into pieces in Purple's dividing and combining realm. It became the second Pseudo-Beast King to fall. 13 minutes after the battle, the third Beast King was shot in the heart by Yonglin Fujimi. 15 minutes after the battle, the fourth Beast King was sliced in half by Astria, who entered Pandora mode. More than 300,000 flying demonic beasts were engulfed by Ikaros' permanent homing missile. They were buried together with the fourth Beast King. 18 minutes later, Hinajika seized the opportunity to kill the fifth Beast King with her fantasy killer, and followed in Blackbat's footsteps. Along with the pseudo-god's power, everything was erased by the fantasy killer. 20 minutes later, the sixth fake Beast King was also crushed into a bloody mist under Fran's power, dying without a complete corpse. 21 minutes after the battle, the last Beast King wasn't spared either. Kotori, Kurumi, Toka Origami Mikoto, Yoshino Yakuria, and Yuki Sien surrounded it. He was killed by Kotori's camel, Megiddo, Toka's Halvin Helif, Origami's annihilating angel, Artilif, and Yakuya and Shimizu's Raphael, Elkanaf. In less than 30 minutes, the 7 fake Beast Kings that the Beast King had created were all killed. This caused the Beast King's expression to become more and more unsightly. When the last Beast King died, his expression became so gloomy that it almost dripped water. A bunch of trash. The Beast King didn't care about the Beast Kings that were killed. As long as he has enough false god power, it won't affect his strength. He could create as many fake Beast Kings as he wanted. That was the purpose of creating them. He wanted to use them as cannon fodder to lure out Yakumo Yuka's trump card. Who would have thought the Beast King wouldn't be lured out by Yakumo Yuka's trump card? Instead, it attracted a group of girls with extremely high power that he had never seen before. The Beast King reached out his hand, and the pseudo-god's power that was erased by Hinajika's fantasy killer flew back to his hand. A strange black light illuminated the Beast King's cruel eyes. "If these are your trump cards, Yakumo Yuka, you're underestimating me." Saying this, the Beast King clenched his fist, and the distorted power of the false god in his hand immediately went back into his body. "I'll show you. No matter how many helpers you find in front of me, they are just a bunch of chickens and dogs." The moment his voice fell, in the sky, clusters of black fog were suddenly born from the black cloud layer. The originally black cloud layer was dyed pitch black like ink, causing the world to turn into a dense darkness. Not good. Almost as soon as the dark clouds in the sky began to give birth to clusters of black fog, the expressions of Zi, Yuxiang and Yonglin, who were the strongest, changed without hesitation. The three girls in three different directions soared into the sky at the same time, a violent turbulence swirling around their bodies. Buzz! Following the three girls' unique powers, they rose into the sky. The three extremely vast forces twisted together, turning into a shield that emitted a bright light. It seemed as if it wanted to break through the sky and expand upwards. TSK. At the same time in the sky, the ink-black clouds suddenly spun into a vortex. In the center of the vortex, a pitch-black light beam burst out, streaking across the sky like a bolt of lightning, and descending straight to the ground. Wherever the pitch-black light beam passed, all the space seemed to be sliced apart. Along with the pitch-black light beam descending, in cracking noises, spiderweb-like cracks appeared. Shortly after, it landed on the shield that soared into the sky. Boom! The defensive barrier created by the combined efforts of three demigod-level super experts who were close to the peak of the demigod level didn't even ripple. With a crisp sound, it exploded under the dumbfounded gazes of everyone below. In just one move, the shield constructed by the monster sage Yakumo Yuka, the flower lord of the four seasons, Yuxiang, and the brain of the moon, Yonglin, collapsed just like that. Gazing at the shattered shield, Zi, Yuxiang, and Yonglin couldn't help but sulk. However, the terrifying pressure from the sky didn't give them much time to feel defeated. Be it Zi or Yonglin, their intelligence was enough to be called monstrous. Even though Yuxiang wasn't as smart as Zi and Yonglin, she had lived for more than 1,000 years, so she couldn't possibly be a fool. Therefore, when they realized that defense alone couldn't match the other party, the three of them made a prompt decision. Attack if you can't defend. Zi, who soared into the sky, came to a halt abruptly. Monstrous demonic powers that were enough to crush a ninth-stage powerhouse erupted from her tall, slender body. The momentum even rippled the ink-black clouds that enshrouded the sky. Realm of heaven and earth. Amidst her delicate roar, the sky beneath the dark clouds suddenly shattered. An extremely terrifying ripple mixed with the fragments of the sky turned into a circle of pitch-black fluctuations that swept violently above the clouds like a tornado. Delicate fragrance directly turned her body, and her figure suddenly became blurred. In the end, she split into two identical delicate fragrances. She raised the parasol in her hand, and a torrent of demon power rolled around her body and poured into the two delicate fragrances. The demon power of the delicate fragrance expanded to several times more terrifying than purple. Double spark. Suspended in the terrifying torrent of demonic powers, the two Yuxiangs raised the parasols in their hands at the same time. The vitality from nature all turned into the purest demonic powers, desperately flowing into the parasols in the hands of the two Yuxiangs, condensing into a mass of demonic powers at the tip of the parasols. Suddenly, it exploded and turned into a huge beam of light with a diameter of 20 meters. It soared into the sky and swept towards the center of the cloud vortex. Yonglin raised the bow in her hand. An extremely mysterious and frightening power rippled from the bow that seemed like it would break with a snap, causing the bow to explode with dense black light and turn into an arrow. Moon Prayer Arrow. When the slender hand loosened the bowstring of the wooden bow, the arrow carrying the moonlight bloomed in the sky. Like a ray of light landing on the moon, it shot straight towards the center of the vortex-like clouds. Under the expectant gaze of countless Spalier World's powerhouses on the ground, three terrifying attacks that were enough to destroy heaven and earth, carrying a power that made one's heart tremble, directly broke through the clouds, scraped the airflow, cut through the space, and shot towards the looming figure at the top of the clouds. However, such 3 terrifying attacks only attracted a cold voice. Overconfident. After these simple words were spoken, a cluster of pitch-black fog surged from the figure above the clouds. Like a tarsal bone, it swept up the pitch-black ripples that were mixed with the fragments of the sky, the enormous resplendent pillar of light, and the arrow that seemed to carry the moonlight, causing them to abruptly stop. Then, they swelled up together with the black fog that swirled around the figure. Bang! There wasn't the slightest strange phenomenon, nor was there the slightest strange sound. It was just the sound of glass shattering. Then, under the astonished gazes of the people on the ground, the seemingly incomparably terrifying 3 attacks shattered inch by inch. With a bang, they turned into light spots and dissipated. Chapter 1995. Gazing at the faintly discernible godlike silhouette floating in the center of the dark vortex, all the demonic beasts that were looking up at the silhouette prostrated themselves on the ground and lowered their prideful heads in worship. Silveria's powerhouses were also looking up at the silhouette in silence. For a moment, they actually forgot to fight and kill. Is this the so-called power of a pseudo-god stage powerhouse? Seeing his all-out attack being easily disintegrated by the Beast King, even though Purple had already seen some of the Beast King's power, he couldn't help but feel solemn. Yonglin also had a solemn expression. Only Yu Xiang didn't feel the slightest bit dispirited. Instead, her scarlet eyes fluctuated with an indescribable fighting spirit. What's wrong? The Beast King hovering in the center of the dark cloud vortex looked down at Purple with a hint of sarcasm in his tone. The surrounding clouds became increasingly oppressive, and continued to be dyed darker by the rolling black mist on his body. Aren't you very good at scheming? Show me your endless schemes again. As soon as his voice fell, the Beast King stretched out his hand. Instantly, around the dark cloud vortex, a black gas suddenly seeped out and gathered on the Beast King's slowly extended hand. It turned into a streak of black light and swept directly toward Purple. Obviously, he was saying extremely arrogant and provocative words. However, the Beast King really saw Z as a threat, and decided to get rid of him first. This made Z slightly surprised. The demonic chi in his body flowed out at an extremely fast speed, surging to the extreme. Chi. Shortly after, a pitch-black crack filled with sinister eyeballs suddenly tore open the space in front of Purple like a shield. It stood in front of Purple. Boom. However, just as the black light was about to be swallowed by the crack, it suddenly exploded. It exploded, and with a loud bang, it turned into a circle of impact that hit Z's body at lightning speed. Boom. Purple let out a muffled groan. Her pretty face turned pale, and her figure staggered backward, almost flying out. Swish. Just as the Beast King raised his palm, intending to take advantage of his victory and kill the only threat in his heart, the sound of something breaking through the air suddenly reverberated, causing the Beast King to frown. He raised his palm and turned it slightly, pointing it in another direction. He clenched his fist. Buzz. Almost at the same second, an arrow carrying moonlight and emanating a mysterious aura flashed out of that space all of a sudden. It shot straight towards the Beast King, and met the Beast King's palm, which was grasping it tightly in his hand. Boom. Immediately afterward, the Beast King directly crushed the mysterious moonlight arrow in his hand. His hand, which was covered in black mist, slapped forward, and slapped the space where the arrow had flashed from. Crack. Along with the sound of a crack, that space was shattered into pieces by the Beast King's palm, and a tall, slender figure was sent flying out of the shattered space. She let out a muffled groan, and was apparently shaken by the impact. It was the 8-Will Yonglin. Hindrance. A cold glint flashed in the Beast King's eyes. He stretched out his other hand and curled it into a claw shape, breaking through the surrounding airwaves and grabbing for Yonglin's head like a black shadow. If this claw hit, even the 8-Will Yonglin's fragile head would definitely be crushed. Yonglin. Below, Kuiye's face paled as she cried out in alarm. Just as she was about to recklessly charge into the sky, she discovered that another tall and slender figure had suddenly appeared on the other side of the Beast King. Raising a parasol, a violent wave of demonic energy swept up, fiercely stabbing towards the Beast King's back. The Beast King's expression froze. He decisively abandoned his pursuit of Yonglin and turned around. His shadowy claws collided with the tip of the parasol. Clang! The seemingly fragile parasol collided with the claws, and a crisp sound of metal clashing echoed in the sky, stirring up countless sparks. However, under the shadow of the parasol that collided with the hand claw, another parasol that looked exactly the same shot out from the shadow of the parasol that collided with the hand claw. In a flash, it pierced towards the heart of the Beast King with a sonic boom. Boom! To everyone's surprise, the Beast King who was hit in the heart by the parasol didn't even tremble. Instead, the owners of the parasols seemed to have been hit by something and their bodies flew back. They didn't stabilize until they were some distance away. It wasn't until he saw the full appearance of the owner of the two parasols that the Beast King understood what had just happened. Floating in front of the Beast King were two identical young ladies. Not only were they identical in appearance and figure, but their demonic power and aura were also exactly the same. Of course, it was Delicate Fragrance. Doppelganger? And it's a doppelganger with the same strength? The Beast King looked at the two women floating in front of him. Their eyes were filled with battle intent, and a look of interest appeared in his eyes. Pretty good ability and strength. Most importantly, you're not a human either. What's your name? Delicate Fragrance. The two delicate fragrances turned at the same time and merged into one. An even more majestic demonic power surged from her body. She raised the parasol and said with a joyful expression, "You're strong. Very strong. But I will defeat you." After that, without giving the Beast King a chance to reply, the tip of the parasol in Yu Xiang's hand immediately fluctuated with a familiar bright light. It turned into a bright beam of light, carrying an extremely violent force as it shot straight at the Beast King. "In your dreams." Seeing this, the Beast King's eyes turned cold. The claw that had just collided with the tip of the Delicate Fragrance umbrella swung out again. Like a sharp blade, it cut through the air in front of it, and directly grabbed the terrifying beam of light and pinched it down. Boom! The powerful magic cannon was instantly crushed in the Beast King's hand. The Beast King also disappeared, leaving behind an afterimage on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already beside Delicate Fragrance. Delicate Fragrance felt her vision blur, and the Beast King had disappeared. When she sensed a strange aura from the space beside her, it was already too late. At the next moment, a claw mixed with rolling black mist landed heavily on Delicate Fragrance's back. Boom. Ugh. Severe pain spread from her back, causing Delicate Fragrance's mind to become blank. Her figure also flew out, drawing a perfect parabola in the air, and fell to the ground. Delicate Fragrance, seeing that the strongest of the three, Fengji and Yu Xiang, was defeated in an instant, Purple and Yonglin's faces couldn't help but change. Is this the end? The Beast King didn't even look at Delicate Fragrance, who fell to the ground. Instead, he glanced at the lineup of the Spalier world's powerhouses below with a face full of horror. As though he was sick of it, he turned to the direction of the capital of different generations. Although we, the Beast race, have decided to take root on the continent of the Spalier world, the Behemoth Forest is still our territory. Humans can't occupy a single inch of it. Let me make that eyesore of a city become history. The Beast King raised his palm and black mist surged like flames. The corner of his mouth revealed a sinister smile. As the crowd below shrunk their pupils, he mercilessly swung his palm downward. Buzz. As the Beast King waved his hand, the dark clouds in the sky began to spin crazily. Waves of black fog that made one's scalp numb quickly condensed, causing the clouds to begin to tremble. Buzz, 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 buzz. In the next instant, huge pitch-black bone spears as large as skyscrapers slowly poked their heads out of the clouds. Amidst the horrified gazes of everyone below, they descended from the sky towards the capital of a foreign era amidst the wails of the world. Chuju, Mikoto, Shokuha Misaki, Kotori, Ikaros, Astria, and the other young ladies flew toward the capital of different generations from all directions. However, at this moment, a slow and indifferent voice resounded through the heavens and the earth. Halt! Chapter 1996. Freeze! When this voice echoed in the sky above the Behemoth Forest and entered everyone's ears, everything in this world came to a standstill. Sound, gales, dark clouds, air. and the pitch-black bone spears that descended from the sky toward the capital of a different era came to a standstill as though they were frozen in space. The Beast King's pupils shrunk at this sight. Shortly after, he realized that the space around him had as though solidified, restricting his movements. Immediately, the black chi on the Beast King's body boiled and rushed into the surrounding space, causing the space around him to emit a bang sound as if something had shattered. Only then did the Beast King feel that he had regained his freedom. "Who's there?" Almost instinctively, the Beast King bellowed at the sky and earth below. "Show yourself." His cold shout turned into an echo that slowly spread out in all directions. All the sounds in the world were drowned out. Buzz. At the next second, in the sky above the capital of a different era, a corner of space rippled abruptly. It attracted everyone's attention. Amidst the ripples, a figure carrying an emerald green, short-haired young lady stepped out of the ripples and appeared before everyone's eyes. Looking at the person who slowly walked out of the space, the Beast King was startled and asked in surprise, "It's you?" Around him, Chuju Mikoto and the rest of the young ladies revealed joyful expressions. The newcomer, of course. It's Wu Yan. And the one being carried in Wu Yan's arms was Yu Xiang, who was struck down by the Beast King just now. Under the sudden silence of the crowd, Yi Zichen was stunned. Wu Yan stepped out of the ripples in a mysterious way as though no one was around. He scanned the surroundings and gazed at the group of young ladies beaming with joy. Then he met the gazes of Yukari, Yonglin, Kagaya, and the other young ladies who were summoned not long ago. He smiled, extended his arm, and swung it gently. Boom! With just such a simple action, the pitch-black bone spears that could destroy the entire capital of a different era fell from the sky and exploded without warning, scattering black bone fragments all over the sky and sprinkling on the ground. Looking at this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Even the Beast King's expression changed. He finally faced Wu Yan squarely. The Beast King immediately realized that something was amiss. How should I put it? In the past, when he faced Wu Yan, the Beast King used his keen sense of smell and intuition to sense Wu Yan exuding a faint aura of nobility and a faint aura of authority. It was as though there was a clear distinction between the strong and the weak, where a high-level magical beast had an absolute bloodline oppression over a low-level magical beast. In the past, the Beast King couldn't figure out what that feeling was all about. Later, he learned that Wu Yan wasn't a human. He possessed a noble and mysterious bloodline that was more than ordinary magical beasts. That was why he could give the Beast King such a feeling similar to bloodline oppression. Not only Wu Yan, but the Beast King also sensed it from Yukari, Yonglin, and Kagaya. But now, that feeling was gone. Yes, it's gone. At that moment, Wu Yan felt like an ordinary human to the Beast King. The aura he carried was also exactly the same as an ordinary human. What does this mean? This means that Wu Yan, a member of a race with a noble bloodline, suddenly turned into a human. It's such a fantasy. But looking at the ordinary human in front of him, the Beast King didn't know why, but he had a strange feeling in his heart. That feeling was like looking at a volcano. This volcano was obviously very ordinary, but it seemed like it could erupt at any time, bringing unimaginable disaster to the Beast King. It was because of this feeling that the Beast King stared at Wu Yan with a gloomy expression. For a moment he didn't plan to attack again. After casually dispelling the Beast King's attack, Wu Yan glanced at the Beast King, then looked at the pale Yukari in his arms and asked softly, "Are you okay?" Yukari looked deeply at Wu Yan and shook her head. She didn't break free from Wu Yan's arms and said such a sentence. "Like you said, I'm not his opponent. But you still want to fight, don't you?" Wu Yan laughed. "How is it? Are you satisfied?" When the crowd heard this sentence, they immediately understood. The reason why Wu Yan didn't appear was because Yukari wanted to fight the Beast King. That's why Wu Yan hid in the dark to look after the girls and the Masaka sisters until Yukari was defeated. This is also because Wu Yan knew that if he didn't let Yukari fight the Beast King, Yukari would be dissatisfied. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let the Beast King be smug for so long. "I haven't defeated him yet." Yukari closed her eyes and finally broke free from Wu Yan's arms. She floated up and floated beside Wu Yan. She didn't face the Beast King, but her back was facing Wu Yan. Her domineering and clear voice slowly echoed. You once said that you were pursuing invincibility. Have you achieved it now? Hearing such a sentence, everyone was speechless. They looked at Wu Yan in a daze. Even the Beast King looked at Wu Yan to see how Wu Yan is going to answer. But Wu Yan didn't answer. Instead, he showed an ambiguous smile. Is invincibility important to you? Hearing this, Yukari was stunned. She was silent for a moment, and then smiled. She smiled very happily. You're right. That's not important to me. No matter how strong or invincible you are, you can't stop me from challenging you. After saying that, Yu Xiang turned around and flew in the direction of the capital of alternate generations, leaving behind a single sentence that echoed in the space. Defeat him? Wu Yan didn't look back at Yukari. Instead, he raised his head and looked at the Beast King, whose face turned cold because of Yukari's words. He opened his mouth and said something that made the Beast King's face even colder. Of course. The whole place was silent. You've changed. The Beast King calmed down all kinds of emotions in his heart and sneered. You've become more unbearable and arrogant than before. Haven't you changed too? Wu Yan said lazily. You think you're invincible now, aren't you? The Beast King sneered. Now that there's no god-level powerhouse, do you think there's anyone who can be my opponent? You want an opponent? Isn't it easy? Wu Yan stretched out his hand and beckoned the Beast King provocatively. Come here and let me see if your so-called invincibility is just unbearable and arrogant. You're courting death. A cold light flashed in the Beast King's eyes. Black clouds of mist burst out of his body and spread to the sky. The killing intent in his eyes suddenly soared and became much stronger than before. Boom. The sky above the giant beast's forest began to tremble as the black fog around the Beast King's body began to churn. Black clouds began to swirl around the giant beast's forest. Finally, clouds of black gas began to form, turning into a black gale that began to descend upon the giant beast's forest. Under the overwhelming pitch-black gales, Wu Yan, who was floating above the capital of a foreign era, was undoubtedly as small as an ant. The extremely ordinary aura on his body couldn't be compared to the monstrous pressure. He was like a grass seedling that was about to face a storm. His eyes that were as dark as the stars stared at the terrifying pitch-black gales. He didn't dodge, as if he didn't see anything. However, when many people cried out in alarm, and almost couldn't bear to see Wu Yan torn apart by the pitch-black gales, a rather shocking scene happened. Pi. Following this strange sound, the pitch-black gales pressing down on Wu Yan suddenly changed direction, and shot towards the Beast King at a speed faster than when they came. Mikoto, Shokuha Masaki, Kinuhata Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku cried out in alarm. Vector manipulation. Chapter 1997. Under the effect of the inexplicable power, the pitch-black wind released by the Beast King was like a fountain. It changed direction and rushed into the sky, fiercely rushing towards the direction of the Beast King. The Beast King naturally didn't expect his attack to be repelled all of a sudden. However, he was already vigilant due to the strange feeling Wu Yan gave him. Even though he was surprised, he didn't panic. Instead, he put on a solemn expression, extended one of his arms, and brushed at the dense, pitch-black clouds around him. Buzz. The dense, pitch-black clouds seemed to be stirred up by an invisible hand. They spun faster all of a sudden, and contracted fiercely. Buzz 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 buzz. As the boundless, pitch-black clouds shrunk, the sky above the behemoth forest trembled. The more the clouds shrunk, the more intense the terrifying pressure became, leaving everyone below breaking out in cold sweat. Even the magical beasts began to tremble. At the next moment, the dense, pitch-black vortex of clouds that shrunk to the size of the capital of a different era spun abruptly. A thunderous sound reverberated from within. Shortly after, a pitch-black rainstorm poured down from the dense, pitch-black vortex of clouds. TSK. Under the pitch-black rainstorm, the pitch-black hurricane that soared into the sky seemed to be corroded. Wisps of pungent black smoke rose from the hurricane, but were quickly eroded away, leaving only the terrifying black rainstorm that seemed to be of a different color. It crashed down like a waterfall, leaving everyone in a panic. Looking at the black rainstorm pouring down from the sky, Wu Yan narrowed his eyes slightly. From the black rainstorm, he could clearly sense an incomparably cold and resentful power flowing in every drop of rain. It was basically the same as the power of a false god, but full of aggression. If one were to be sprinkled by the black rainstorm, perhaps even if one didn't die, one would be disfigured. At the very least, one's face would be disfigured. It was scarier than sulfuric acid. At this thought, Wu Yan didn't delay any longer. He spread out his arm, and a burst of green light suddenly bloomed from his body. It turned into a bright beam of light. It was as if he was being grabbed by a big hand. He swung it forward. Bang, 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 bang. Immediately, the light pillar swept across the sky as if it was capable of annihilating an army, colliding fiercely with the black rain that was pouring down. Bursts of charred smoke rose from the explosion. Mikoto, Shokuho Misaki, Kanuhata Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku all exclaimed as they felt the familiar power within the light. Atomic collapse? Yes. It was the ability of Mijino Shizuri, who was ranked 4th among the 7 espers in Academy City. Atomic meltdown. Be it Accelerator's vector manipulation, or Mijino Shizuri's atomic meltdown, they were all being used by Wu Yan, and were even stronger than the original owners. That's because Wu Yan's vector manipulation and atomic meltdown were already beyond LV5. Of course, it wasn't just vector manipulation and atomic meltdown. During the battle with the Beast King had been using the pseudo-god's power to attack, while Wu Yan's methods were so complicated that it made one speechless. There were espers, magic, and even the power of an elf. Furthermore, Wu Yan's espers, magic, and elven powers were all things that the previous Wu Yan didn't know and didn't even have. I see. Chuju muttered absent-mindedly. So this is Yan's true power? It must be. Mikoto nodded. Her brown eyes didn't move away from the figure for even a second. So this is what Yan meant when he said he had fused with the system? True control over everything in the system. That's right. Wu Yan had true control over everything in the system. That day, Wu Yan finally saw the true face of the system in the depths of his soul. At the same time, it was also the last time Wu Yan saw the system. Since then, Wu Yan could no longer hear the system's voice. The system had completely become Wu Yan's possession. Its existence had disappeared, but everything in the system was under Wu Yan's control. Equipment, items, abilities, summon. As long as it was an ability that belonged to the system, Wu Yan could use it freely. He no longer needed to exchange for equipment points, item points, ability points, and summoning points. He no longer needed to go through the system's approval and procedures. As long as Wu Yan wanted to, he could use any ability that could be exchanged or used in the system. That's why Wu Yan could summon more than a dozen characters at once. Among them were demigods like Yuka Fujimi and Yonglin Yagi. He didn't even need to pay a single summoning point. That's why Wu Yan could now use all kinds of abilities that he didn't know or didn't have before. If he wanted, Wu Yan could also give his summons the ability to sense the system. That way, the girls would have the ability to detect other people's existence and level. Of course, in the future, the girls would no longer be able to gain experience points from battles to level up. When Wu Yan enters other dungeons, there would no longer be any dungeon quests. Everything in the system had become Wu Yan's personal ability. With all kinds of equipment, items, and abilities, the current Wu Yan was basically a living system. That's why the Beast King's face darkened under the endless stream of abilities and methods. Don't be too arrogant. In a furious roar, the Beast King took a step forward. Along with the swirling, pitch-black clouds, he raised his fist and punched in Wu Yan's direction. Kacha kacha. In an instant, the space shattered inch by inch. The overwhelming black mist transformed into a fist that was large enough to occupy anyone's field of vision. It crashed down heavily on Wu Yan with terrifying strength. Humph. Seeing that the Beast King finally couldn't help but use his true strength, Wu Yan let out a snort. He didn't dodge. Instead, he raised his fist and punched back. Boom. Along with Wu Yan's punch, a violent shockwave burst out like a gigantic, invisible cannonball that soared into the sky and greeted the huge, pitch-black fist. Boom. The pitch-black fist and the invisible cannonball collided in midair. The shockwave from the collision shattered many of the huge trees in the behemoth forest into powder. Many of the beasts were also blasted into a bloody mist. They didn't even know what happened before they died. Retreat. Below, the powerful beings of the Spalier world were frightened out of their wits. One by one, they fled for their lives. Even the Misaka sisters had cast their Tertori, domain of will. The group of young ladies also cast defensive spells and retreated rapidly. In the sky, witnessing the scene of his attack being blocked, the Beast King's expression couldn't help but change. The Beast King had unleashed his full strength in that attack. It was 100% the full strength of a powerful being in the pseudo-god stage. However, this attack that defeated Yakumo Yuxiang, and Yonglin in a single strike didn't even leave a scratch on Wu Yan? Impossible. Impossible. The Beast King couldn't help but murmur. Even if he can borrow Yakumo Yukari's power, and use the same level of power as Yakumo Yukari, he shouldn't be able to block my full power attack. Even Yakumo Yukari couldn't block it. How could he? What's wrong? While the Beast King was still muttering to himself, Wu Yan remained calm. He looked at the Beast King who was floating in the middle of the pitch-black vortex clouds and mocked him. Aren't you good at boasting? Show me your invincible strength again. This was what the Beast King said to Yakumo when he first appeared. And now Wu Yan had changed it slightly and returned it to the Beast King. Wu Yan. The Beast King's expression turned ruthless. You're courting death. Courting death? Wu Yan's expression turned cold. You're the one who's courting death. Wu Yan snapped his fingers. A crimson spatial ripple unfolded behind him. Within it, treasures of various colors emerged. Real treasures. Chapter 1998. Amidst the ripples in space, a crimson color gradually dyed a corner of this world red. It was like a huge crimson door that slowly swung open, and then slowly opened. There were sabers, swords, spears, halberds, and all sorts of treasures that exuded vicissitudes, ancient, mysterious, and indescribable fluctuations. Some of them had strange appearances, some were luxurious, some were simple, and some were oddly shaped. Not long after, they filled the entire crimson space, filling everyone's field of vision, and pointed to the front from afar. After controlling everything in the system, Wu Yan no longer had to worry about his equipment storage. Not only did he store all the original treasures of the Gate of Babylon into the system, but he also converted some treasures that were not original and unique treasures from other worlds into the Gate of Babylon. Finally, the power of the Gate of Babylon reappeared and improved. Under such circumstances, although the power of the Gate of Babylon could not be upgraded to the level of a mythical armament, it was at the peak of a legendary armament. It was only one step away from becoming a mythical armament. In addition to the treasures of the Gate of Babylon, which had all kinds of strange abilities, there was no doubt about it. In terms of lethality, the Gate of Babylon was truly above a legendary armament. It had reached the level of a mythical armament. Therefore, the Beast King, who was furious, could not help but feel his face twitch when he was pointed at by the treasures. His eyes turned gloomy as he suppressed the anger in his heart and activated the false god force in his body. The black fog that covered the sky and earth surged out of his body. It rose into the air, and with a roll of the surrounding pitch-black whirlpool of clouds, it completely concealed its body within it. Of course, the Beast King did not just want to hide his body. The surrounding pitch-black fog and clouds had enough defensive power to block any attack. Any attack from an opponent weaker than the Beast King. Pseudo-god power? He glanced at the black vortex of clouds that was gradually rolling away. From the bottom of his heart, Wu Yan despised the disgusting power of the false god. Without hesitation he waved his hand. Tens of thousands of treasures emerged from the Gate of Babylon and shot out like a machine gun. The rain of treasures was like a storm that covered the sky and covered the earth. It was like a stream of light that flashed in midair, drawing a cold arc of light that belonged to the weapons. Amidst the riot of the atmosphere and the chaotic sound of the air being torn apart, it was like a rainstorm that advanced dauntlessly and fell on the pitch-black whirlpool of clouds. Dong 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 dong. Suddenly, the seemingly strange and sturdy pitch-black whirlpool of clouds, under the attack of the true treasures that could be said to be the strongest equipment, was like a wave that had been hit by bombs. With a series of loud noises, holes appeared one after another. The sea of clouds also completely churned, and became much thinner all of a sudden. Aha! Not long after, the Beast King's pained and enraged roars echoed from within the pitch-black vortex of clouds. There was even a hint of hysteria in its voice. Go to hell. Whoosh! As the pitch-black whirlpool of clouds became thinner, the Beast King that was hiding in it let out a low growl. The pitch-black whirlpool of clouds tumbled like boiling magma, and at the same time, fishy smelly bubbles emerged. Black mist permeated the air, and turned into a gigantic beast claw that covered the sky. Together with the pitch-black whirlpool of clouds that gave birth to the gigantic beast claw, it was as though a terrifying giant beast had stretched out its claw from the center of the whirlpool of clouds. Wherever it passed, the space trembled and the sharp sound of the wind could be heard clearly in the entire world. Looking at the gigantic beast claw that burst out from the pitch-black whirlpool of clouds, Wu Yan's expression remained unchanged. He snapped his fingers. Buzz. Behind Wu Yan, a huge ripple appeared in the center of the crimson space filled with all kinds of treasures. A huge sword that was not inferior to the huge beast claw suddenly flew out from the gate of Babylon, causing the surrounding space to distort. Ogalima. As the atmosphere vibrated, the relic Igalama flashed out of the gate of Babylon and collided with the huge beast claw. Bam! With a loud muffled sound, the huge beast claw was blasted apart by the old huge sword. The huge sword did not lose its momentum. It swept up a frenzied airflow and directly shot towards the pitch-black whirlpool of clouds, colliding with it heavily. Boom! Another loud sound rang out. This time, it was the pitch-black vortex clouds that were violently smashed into pieces by the old giant sword. They scattered into countless pitch-black air masses that were like meat scraps. They scattered in all directions and swept out together with the air waves that were created from the impact. However, in the nick of time, a black shadow brought along a dense black fog and retreated out of it in time, dodging the terrifying giant sword. However, before the Beast King could heave a sigh of relief, a circle of intense ripples appeared in the crimson space below where various treasures were suspended. An extremely ferocious sickle that looked like a beast's claw popped out from it, and a burst of scorching red light rose all over its body. Shulshagana. The ferocious-looking Shulshagana that was emitting a scorching red light swung forward heavily. A violent sea of flames instantly spread along the trajectory of the scythe like an indomitable wave, instantly shrouding the thick black mist around the Beast King. TSK. The scorching flames and the thick black mist collided violently, triggering a series of burning sounds. Almost in the blink of an eye, the sea of flames burned the thick black mist around the Beast King, exposing its sorry figure to the air. You should feel honored. Just as the Beast King's sorry figure was exposed to the air, a soft voice sounded behind it. To be able to witness the godly armaments of Sumerian mythology, Igalama, and Shulshagana, you can die without regrets. The Beast King's expression changed drastically. His pupils shrank to the size of a needle due to shock and disbelief. He could only turn around violently and take in the familiar face with a sneer and ridicule in his field of vision. Then a crimson spear appeared in front of the Beast King. The Beast King glared at Wu Yan as he thrust the spear towards the Beast King's chest. The Beast King's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Wu Yan grabbed the spear and thrust it towards the Beast King's chest. How dare you? The Beast King bellowed like an injured beast. Clouds of black mist erupted from its body and coiled around it, forming layers of shield-like defenses before the scarlet spear. The Beast King subconsciously raised his arms to protect his chest. However, the next moment, Wu Yan, who was wielding the crimson spear, spat out a cold sentence in liberation language. Piercing spear of death, Gibang LG. Buzz. The instant the spear of death piercing was released, the flame-like radiance coiling around it expanded and solidified. Shing. The scarlet spear that was surrounded by flames turned into a red bolt of lightning. Under the Beast King's horrified gaze, it suddenly twisted and drew an arc, directly avoiding the layers of shield-like black fog. It twisted and flashed from the side, passing through the gap between the Beast King's hands and flashing towards the Beast King's heart. Splurt. As a clear tearing sound was heard, the ultimate relic, Gi Spear, pierced through the Monster King's heart and came out of its back. Fresh blood splattered everywhere. The Beast King's pupils gradually widened. His expression froze and he couldn't move an inch. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.